Have you ever tuned your guitar to a tuner? Everything matches up on the screen, everything looks good, and then you actually play something on the guitar and it's obviously out of tune? I bet you have. I have a little bit of bad news for you, especially if you play acoustic guitar. That problem is probably never going to go away. No guitar is going to ever be perfectly in tune. Some can be more in tune than others. But in this video, I want to show you how I tune using partially harmonics and partially fretted notes so that I can compromise and compensate and get the most in tune that I can be over the largest amount of real estate on the neck. Okay, I'm going to start out by tuning to a tuner like I did at the beginning, although I'll try not to make that face again. And we'll get all the strings in tune like it says, and then we'll see what it sounds like across the neck and playing a few different things. So the low E string, I never tune the low E string, or if I tune it to a tuner and it says E there, I know I'm going to have to change it later a lot. And that's not the only string. If you go too high sometimes, the gears here aren't super fine, so you might find yourself going a little bit too high, too low, and you can't get in that right spot. If you go a little bit high, not low, you can tug on the string a little bit, stretch it out, and sometimes you can get right in the middle where you want it to be. Didn't make it for me that time. Okay, that's close enough. Now I know I don't often tune all my strings to a tuner. If I want to listen to that buzz, that's a separate video. I'll usually just use a tuner just to tune one string, and then I'll tune from there, and as I'll show you. But keep in mind that you don't need to tune to a tuner really ever. Just tune the guitar to itself, assuming that the tension on the strings is like not too slack or not super tight where they're going to break or something. Usually your guitar is in the vicinity. Just tune from the low E string, unless you're playing with other people, of course, or unless you're playing to a record or something. Sometimes tuning them a little bit higher where the string tension is greater, or tuning it lower where it's easier to bend or something, or better for your voice, might be something that you want to do. Like I have a guitar at home that's tuned way low only because this tuner broke off. So I have to tune everything to whatever this string is, and over time it's just getting lower and lower. But anyway, we want to develop your ear, totally, and that's kind of what this video is about too. So we tuned it up to that precise tuner, and the precision of these tuners is actually going to be hurting us. But let's play an E chord. You can hear that G sharp, the first fret of the G string, is a little bit too high. Let's bring it down some. Too low. Now, that wasn't too bad today, but generally when I tune to a tuner, each string to the tuner, and I play an E chord especially, that G sharp is going to be too sharp. Okay. Let's try an E chord here. Okay, already we got trouble there. Here's an E. Oh, it's too sharp. And the low E here against this E on the 5th string is not a perfect octave, you can tell. Oy. Okay, and now I'll try this, and I do this all the time. Play A, and then A here, and A here, and the B string is too sharp. We're going to have to compensate for that. So what we're going to do here is use harmonics for many reasons. One of them is so that we can hear the string ringing out at the same time. Now, have you ever seen people tune like this? Well, they'll tune in the textbook way, where you play the 5th fret and play the next string. Ugh. I'll fix that in a minute. And then they'll let it ring out, and then take their other arm and go over here and start making the adjustment. And that's like this athletic exercise. But if you want to burn some calories, do that. But what they're doing is trying to get where they can still hear both notes at the same time. But if we tune with natural harmonics, the way I'll show you, we can hear them ringing out at the same time, and it really helps us kind of really more precisely match these tones. Okay, now busting out the electric guitar. When you play electric guitar with an amp with some distortion, bring this up a little bit. And we're on the bridge pickup, really helps pick up the harmonics more. I'm going to play a harmonic on the 5th fret of the E string, and then on the 7th fret of the A string. That should be the exact same note. They're a little bit off, right? I'm going to make them more off just so we can hear the difference. But not only does that ring out for a long time because of the sustain of an electric guitar with that distortion or overdrive on it, but we hear this oscillation thing. That's going wah, 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 wah. That's a really handy thing, because as we get closer to the pitch for them both to match, It slows down, it gets wider and wider until it disappears, and that's what we're looking for. Sometimes you can hear it get to exactly the right note that you want, and then it veers off from there. Your strings are always changing. The humidity and temperature, all those things affect the tuning of the strings at every moment. Kind of a pain, as you know. But what you just heard there with the electric guitar, we're not going to get that, obviously, on acoustic guitar or certainly a nylon string. But we're looking for, you actually can hear a little bit of that waveform oscillation, let's call it. And we're trying to get it to where it's not so active, not going wah, 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 wah. If the more frequent it gets, then the further away you're getting. We're just trying to get to where that oscillation disappears. If you play nylon string guitar, the three most essential techniques are picado, rasgueo, and arpeggio. Check out my free workshop below where we do a deep dive on these three techniques, and I give you a great drill that combines them all together and gets you playing this correctly in very little time. Now, for whatever reason, guitar students don't learn how to play natural harmonics right off the bat. We learn the way of tuning. Probably nowadays, every guitar teacher is teaching their students to tune with a tuner, and that's okay. But if you open up a book, it's gonna tell you go to the 5th fret here, match the next string. My low E string's too high. And go to the next one, same thing, too high. And on. We got that one string that's different, and that's the genius of standard tuning. All the shapes that we know are really born of this tuning. 5th fret again, and then we go to the 4th fret, and then we tune 5th fret here. Well, that'll only get you so far. That's actually better, I think, than tuning to a tuner, because now we're covering a distance where we have an A here, and we're going 5 frets away and tuning the next string, as opposed to tuning them all in the same place, the open string, to the tuner. And then as we go up the neck, we're just likely to get more and more out of tune as we go. And this is a word I have to mention called intonation, you probably heard about. If your intonation is off, that means is the further you go up the string, the more and more out of tune it gets. And what that means is we need a perfect octave right here on the 12th fret. So we've got an open E string, go to the 12th fret, it should be the same exact note. It rarely ever is perfectly that note. Now if you play an electric guitar, especially like more modern guitars, like my shred guitar that I almost pulled out, but the electronics are shot, you can adjust the length of each individual string. There's a little saddle on each one, and that allows us to get a perfect octave. So what we want is to be exactly in the middle of the string. That's what an octave is. A string vibrates at a certain number of times per second, and what we're doing by going to the 12th fret is chopping the string in half. So now that string is vibrating at exactly twice as many times per second, and that's why it produces the same note, even though we call it an octave higher. But that's the goal, but that's never truly going to be mathematically, in terms of physics, completely possible, but that's what we're shooting for. Great way to test it though is to play a harmonic on the 12th fret and then fret the note, because the harmonic's going to give you more of the true middle of the string harmonic, and then fret the note. Do they sound the same? A little bit different, pretty close though. This is how you check the intonation on your guitar. A little bit sharp, a little bit flat, not so bad. That's a little bit sharp, I think. Sometimes it's so crazy. I've been playing and teaching for decades, since I was 15 years old. And sometimes when it gets really close, you can mistake too low for too high sometimes. But anyway, this is going to be great for training your ear, I hope. So what I just did, I'm playing natural harmonics, and that's how we're going to tune. But when you're first learning guitar, you don't really get taught harmonics very quickly, like right off the bat. We're normally going to tune to a tuner or this method of going to the 5th fret. But actually playing a harmonic is not, it's considered by some, or at least maybe nobody ever comes out and says this, but it's almost more of an advanced technique, but it shouldn't be. It's way easier than actually fretting a note. So what a harmonic is we're going to go to, in this case, the 5th fret. It'll also, on the 7th and 12th, those are the main nodes, the main spots where we can get a nice harmonic. You can get them other places too. There's a G sharp harmonic on the 4th fret. But we're used to coming in between the frets, hopefully closer to the fret, but we want to get right on top of the fret. Don't press down, just lightly touch it. And it's not your fingertip like we would if we were fretting a note. It's this flat part of your finger. There's less surface area there, kind of comes down to a little V here. And that's what we want to place over the string, more chance of success there. And we might hit it a little harder than normal, just so we can make a nice clear note there. I'm doing a rest stroke with my thumb for more volume. and then I'm gonna go to this string and try to match them. Okay, that's the idea. So there's one string that's different, as I mentioned, and that's gonna mess up our ability to do this on every single pair of strings. But that's not even how I tune anyway. So you gotta know how to play a harmonic. That's number one. And what I do is I usually tune the A string, like we're going to the symphony and hearing all those violins tuning to 440, right? Either get an actual A note with your tuner or just don't worry about it, and whatever this note is, we'll tune from there. So I'm gonna play a harmonic on the 5th fret of the A string, and the first thing I ever do is go up here and tune that 10th fret, which should be an A note, 10th fret of the B string to the harmonic that you just heard. So that's a combination of harmonics and fretted note. It's in tune, miraculously. It's usually too sharp. I corrected it earlier. If it's too sharp, which it very often is on my guitars, it would sound like this. So you can hear that's too sharp. And now go over here and lower it. That harmonic is still ringing out, but we're working also on listening to, if all the notes stop, we want to remember the tone of the correct pitch that we're shooting for. And I think that's a great skill too. Okay. One thing, here's a pro tip for you. I see students do this all the time, where they're going to tune up, whatever method of tuning you're doing, and they go right to the string and tune it without even playing the string. Never turn the tuner unless you can hear the string, unless the string is sounding, because how are you going to know if you went too far? You're not. So always be hearing the string, however you're tuning, so they can hear the degree or the rate at which you're changing the pitch of the string. So we have a harmonic here, tune that to it, and now I go to this one. It's like what I was doing earlier. Play these octaves and make sure that those are in tune with each other. Not bad. Then I go back to this one and tune this high A to that same note. But what this is going to allow us to do is it might be a little bit out of tune wherever you go, just a little bit, but it'll be overall sound pretty good. So what we're trying to avoid is a song where everything sounds great here, then you go up here and it's just massively out of tune, and that can happen, and you probably know that can happen, and we're trying to minimize that. Okay, so we have that A, and then matching that to it, matching that to it, matching that. Now we go to the low E. This is always a problem for me. Make sure that that's an octave there. Okay, usually it's too high, and I corrected this earlier, and bring it down. You can do your athletic thing there if you want. But we're trying to remember the note we just heard. And now play this. E, E, and then an octave there. That sounds sharp to me. Judging it not only against this E and this E, but also the high E string, judging it against the 9th fret of the E string there. And on Spanish guitar, we play up here quite a bit, right? So we want to make sure that when we play this B, especially if you're playing something like Leyenda, we got that B string ringing out all the time against this fretted B. So we got to make sure that those sound at least in the vicinity of being in tune with each other. And then very often we'll play this E against that one, like this E chord I played earlier. Yeah, that G is too sharp. Now I bet when I go down and play an E chord again, it'll be too flat. That sounds better. Never gonna be perfect. And now, flat, right? Now, just because you have these tuning problems that you're gonna have your whole life, and I've had, doesn't mean your guitar sucks, but it might mean that you need to take your guitar in periodically and have them adjust the intonation so we have that perfect octave on the 12th fret, at least as much as humanly possible for your guitar. And then over time, just like as we get old, things start to get creaky and start to hurt. I think that happens to your guitar too. And you got to take it back in and have it adjusted again. That's just the way that it is. Got to do that maintenance on your guitar. But like I said, no guitar is perfect, so try as you might, you're never going to get perfect tuning everywhere that you go. So if you were playing, let's say in an ensemble or in a duo, or you're recording something, whatever, and you need to be in a certain region like that, especially if you're going to be high, because remember, the higher you go, the more out of tune we're going to get from what we were down here, typically. Hopefully not too much. But so if you were up here playing, I would tune to a tuner up here these notes, unless you're going to play some open strings with it. So I've done that before too in the studio, where I'm only going to be in a certain region, so I'll tune to a tuner up here. So I'll play this note, match that to a D note here, match that to an A note, and that way it's going to sound with the other instruments on the recording or in the ensemble, whatever you're playing, then it'll sound correct. But that's only for certain circumstances where you're staying just in one spot. So if you start tuning the way that I do, using harmonics and fretted notes together, you're going to have a more general, correct tuning all over the neck, and that's going to keep us from hearing too many surprises so that you don't have an egregiously out of tune note when you go up to a higher position or you go from high to low. Aside from this perennial problem of tuning, I really think nylon string guitars are great, and I want to tell you why in this video right here. Have you ever tuned your guitar to a tuner and thought you did the right thing? You're just a normal guitarist trying to do the right thing, and then you actually play something on the guitar and it's obviously out of tune. You just tuned it! Have you ever tuned your guitar to a tuner, followed all the rules, trying to be the best person you can be, and then you strum a chord and it's obviously out of tune? Well, you're not alone.